Right. Isn't it beautiful to see? So yeah, the Reinhardt Armory deck, clearly a blip, because this deck looks phenomenal. The Arachne Slippy Armory deck, for not just Slippy itself, but Assassin, it's got some really, really solid stuff. I mean, just Race Spotters alone, if you compare it to, the Beat Chest stuff, this does wonders for Assassin, right? Way more than any of the pieces that we got for Beat Chest with Brute just in general. I mean, Crate Spotters could be arguably worse and still be good, right? If it didn't have Battle Worn at all, block for nothing, it still had its attack reaction. Right. If its attack reaction was limited to, I don't know, assassin cards or cards with stealth, still be phenomenal. Right? It's just a whole lot more functional, right? But anyway, let's get into it. So, obviously comes with Arakni. It means that this deck, I don't believe, is obviously Blitz ready, although, Blitz is leaving, right? But you can still strip it down. You can still use some really good stuff for Stage, right? Although, you'd have to pick up Solitary Confinement or just, ship this into Mario and you'd probably have a good time nonetheless. Anyway, also comes with a Hunter's Clave, so that's really good. I think it's still slightly expensive, so this will probably taper it off completely, right? And then in terms of the equipment, it's all new stuff. Unlike just, alt art Goliath gauntlets and glorified hardened cross strap, right? So yeah, I'm gonna stop bashing on the brute. Let's get into the assassin stuff. So Prey Spotters. Attack reaction, destroy this, mark the target opposing hero, and battle worn once. You get a little bit of block, and for me, this just completely eclipses mark of predation, right? Because it is just a lot more functional effect than, milling your opponent. So this just being on board as a way for you to mark your opponent in conjunction with maybe you've already flicked a dagger, right? And you've gone with that, is just phenomenal because it just adds a whole lot of pressure to cards like, for instance, Mark of the Black Widow, where you present to your opponent, you have this on board, and they have to consider it, especially when it's used in Mario, for instance, because then they have to worry about the +1 as well as the go again. So, yeah, this is a really significant headpiece that is also Sage applicable because it is a rare. So, beautiful art, beautiful card. So happy to see. Again, phenomenal Armory deck design. Surfacing, right? Inverter's Night Cowl. Action, destroy this until the end of turn. Whenever you play an attack action card with stealth, gain a resource, go again. So again, even though this is a Slippy deck, I kind of have to just talk about it in the sake of Mario, because you've got Flick Knives, you've got your headpiece now, you could go a few chain links wide, right? A lot more easily, especially with a card like this that's generating you those resources. That is pretty nuts. So it blocks for one, and then again, for that whole tempo turn, you've got your Assassin's Savage Sash in a sense, and that is pretty nuts, even if you're just funneling these resources into, say, a weapon swing, right? So you go stealth attack, you flick or you mark with your headpiece, stealth attack, and then again, you go with the other one, then you swing, you get another mark, and you go again, and then you go again, right? Just being able to dump your hand and have such a powerful turn that can also, again, because it's Assassin, because it's Mark, be incredibly disruptive, is nuts to me, right? Then we have Rage Baiters. So these were spoiled previously, but attack reaction, pay one, tap, target attack with stealth gets when this hits hero, mark them. So, curious enough, the resource cost on it, I don't know if that necessarily makes it, better than ditching your dagger. Essentially, the idea with Flick Knives in comparison to Rage Baiters is you're flicking your dagger away and then you're paying one later on to get that dagger back, most likely, right? Sake of Rage Baiters, you're upfronting that cost. So again, it's debatable which is better. I think personally, the flick is always going to be better because it's a different source of damage, so it requires a different sense of reaction to prevent it. This doesn't give a +1. It doesn't, turn on Mario straight away. So, generally speaking, for Slippy, it seems good, but I think it still underperforms in comparison to Flick Knives. But still, cool design nonetheless. Then Stalker Steps. Attack reaction, destroy this. Target attack with stealth. Gains go again. And AB1, right? That's a little bit more functional than Widowmaker. So Widowmaker, Spell Void, and AB, right? So it has a dual purpose. You can ditch it near the end of the game when you need to preserve your cards, and then still, survive and go into a tempo turn. But this having AB, and then similarly having a bit more of a functional tempo push, right? Giving you go again, similar to the life of me, I can't remember what the Assassin Black Tech Whisperers, Black Trek Is it Trek, like trekking? Anyway, the other assassin legs that again give you, go again, but allow you to buy it back with silver if you're generating silver. So yeah, these are definitely some really solid AB leg pieces. Again, the deck just seems phenomenal for assassin, right? I mean, with what it's working with as a starting point, it didn't really have to do much to get a big tick of approval on that Art of Desired Body. So, some pretty solid stealth attack, right? They can, maybe net you that tempo push if you do get the draw card. Then we have Creep as another new card. Stealth, when this attacks, the next attack action card with Stealth, you play this combat chain, gets Go Again. Yeah, so, they've taken away a little bit of the disruption, right? Bond's being gone, and they're starting to sort of build a little bit wider of an assassin toolkit. So, pretty cool, right? So, yeah, again, for Slippy, you have his Go Again, and then you have something like Creep feeding into something else. That's pretty cool. It's a nice little opener that, again, uses Slippy's Go Again and then goes into something else. But as Mario and marking, the turns you will be able to pull off are definitely pretty interesting. Now, Infect, solid enough, presenting that Blood Rot, so a little bit extra damage. Infiltrate as one of the Majestic, so when it hits a hero bash top card of the deck, you may play it until the end of your next turn. Can definitely be pretty nice depending on what you hit, right? Other than that, it's just a nice, good value stealth, 0 cost 3. Mark of the Black Widow, again, a bread and butter card, especially with some of the new gadgets, right? So when this hits a marked hero, they banish a card from the hand. That's the disruption you really want. Mark of the Funnelweb, banish from Arsenal, so similar, but a little bit different. Meet Madness. Now, a little bit disappointed about the Chaos side of things, right? I believe this is the only Chaos card in the deck, so it's not really becoming a full-fledged talent. So I can probably cross it off the list for Pen, but nonetheless, it's still a cool card, right? When it hits hero, choose one at random. They choose a card in their hand, bash it. They choose a card in their arsenal, bash it, or bash the top card of their deck. So yeah, it can be disruptive. Overall, it's just another set that, some of the time gets that hand disruption or arsenal disruption, and that can be quite impactful, right? Now, being able to, for instance, push the damage in Mario might make it a little bit crazier, but I don't think it'd be utterly busted. Pick to pieces, so some little attack reaction interaction. And we do actually have, you have the Go Again, you have Rage Baiters, which you can, reuse, and you can kind of use it a bit more often than Flick Knives, because you might run out of daggers, you might not draw into your retrieve cards. You've got Prey Spotters as well. What's the other chess piece? Redback Shroud. You probably wouldn't want to use that anyways, attack reaction, right? So generally speaking, it covers the general basis that Assassin usually has in its pocket anyway. So Pick to Pieces only requires one attack reaction to give it a +1, and turn on its damage cannot be prevented, right? So yeah, overall these are just the usual solid cards you kind of see across the board in Assassin decks here or there. Some of them can, a little bit more easy to swap out into some more staple-ish cards, right? Some of the big hitter Assassin cards are definitely missing from the deck, but it is still a really solid looking deck straight out of the box. Prowl, when it attacks, next attack with Stealth, you play his combat chain, gets +1. So again, a nice opener card for Slippy. Go into a 3 and then to maybe a disruptive 4. Scuttle the Canal, when it attacks a marked hero, this gets Go Again. So again, in the case of Slippy, you open up with a Stealth with Go Again thanks to his ability, and then you go Scuttle off of maybe Rage Baiters, and then you go into that final card, and you can throw in Hunter's Clave here and there, right, as again, another chance to mark. Undercover Acquisition, kind of a lackluster M to stick in there, but still, item disruption. Yeah, it has a little bit of impact. The meta's sort of starting to shift a little bit, and, yonking a gold hero there could definitely come in handy. So Stealth, when it hits hero, steal an item they control. Raised Edge, just a good stock standard assassin attack reaction. Spike with Blood Rot, same sort of thing. Strains of the Redback, even better, right? So again, with all the mark support in this deck, definitely a really solid card. Again, another Go Again feeder. Now, Horrors of the Past. Stealth, when this attacks, it gets the base abilities of the last attack action card with Stealth you control on the combat chain. Now, so in terms of gets the base abilities, that means essentially anything in the original text box of the card with Stealth, right, that you played before this. So Horrors of the Past can definitely be quite horrific with what you're following up. Again, as Slippy, you can open up with basically any Stealth card, because it has Go Again, and then double down on it with Horrors of the Past. Now, it doesn't gain their power, for instance, right? So, if you open with a Persuasive Prognosis, it's not going to turn into one that you can then just a nick, for instance. If you open with something a bit bigger, it won't grow in power either. So, it is, in that sense, somewhat balanced. But yeah, this is definitely a scary card, and just imagine if Bonds was still in play, right? So definitely balanced, but a little bit disgusting in itself, and can definitely be ripe for a little bit more egregious things. Again, in Mario, you can, give it a +1, get a little bit easier to a breakpoint where you do land the effect. And there's still some other decent effects as well that could definitely be fun to just double down on. I mean, again, just presenting a whole bunch of hand disruption through Mark of the Black Widow into Horrors of the Past, definitely a strong enough turn by itself. Shred, again, another nice stock standard assassin attack reaction, right? I believe Shred Yellow is the most valued Shred because, well, it's a yellow that offers that -3 of value. So pretty glorious and most likely to get something through. It also might help curb the current cost of Shred for Sage as well, right? Because you'll get a full place out of it. Take up the Mantle, targeting attack action card with Stealth gets +2, and then if it's attacking a marked hero instead, you get +3, and you may banish an attack action card with Stealth from your graveyard. If you do, the target becomes a copy of the banished card. So that, again, the wording is different to copying the base abilities. That's becoming the entire card, right? So, yeah, a nice, good attack reaction. Again, backed up by a whole lot of continued mark support, even in the absence of Flick Knives, right? Then we have Mark of the Black Widow in blue. Again, still solid enough. It's still something that your opponent has to consider and worry about. Mark of the Funnel Web, Reaper's Call, and then Knights in Brace, another new card. Your attacks with Stealth get +1 this turn as a blue, as an attack reaction, right? So not only is it a +1 blue, so fairish value, right? But then it's also giving +1 to your following Stealth card. So this potentially being a blue +2, if not more, is definitely pretty nice, right? Works well with the graphene daggers, right? Because they do have stealth, and this is just considering attacks. So yeah, you can definitely get a lot of decent value out of Knights and Brace, and better yet, you can use it as attack reaction, so your opponent, doesn't necessarily see it coming. If you don't need to, then it's, the card you pitch into your dagger. So you open with a stealth card, most likely 0 cost with Slippy, then you've got your option to use Knights and Brace, follow up with another stealth card, get your +2 out of it, or transition into, using this to pay the cost of a dagger swing, and then maybe a 1-cost card or a 1-cost attack reaction. Then we just have Shred Blue and Bloodrot Pox, because again, there's Spike as well as Infect. So yeah, overall, a really phenomenal looking Armory deck, which is just great to see. So yeah, I think with this, I will probably dabble in Assassin, because it does look exciting, does look like fun. It can sort of be a rough time from your opponent's side, right? Again, Bonds, definitely an egregious card by itself, but the fact that you can just pressure so much with some of the new cards coming in this deck is definitely a little scary, right? So in terms of, obviously, cards to look for in terms of upgrading, let's go over a few. So we're going to stick with Rage Baiters. We're not going to worry too much about Flick Knives or Retrieve or any of that sort of normal packages, because in all honesty, I think they fit a little bit better into Mario, right? This deck is really easy to run out of the box, and I don't want to tamper with that too much. So I'm going to stick with Rage Baiters. Now, in terms of Rage Baiters, I think one of its really impactful uses is its namesake, right? So the fact that you can tack this onto any dagger swing and turn it into Hunter's Clave is pretty scary, and obviously going to be rage-inducing, because, for instance, you present Spider's Bite. Your opponent goes, oh, that's not the Mark dagger, I'm not going to worry about it, and then you rage bait them. And yeah, woe is me, right? And obviously you can do that with any of the daggers. Nerve Scalpel to play around, defense reactions, or the Orbital class if you want to tack that in, if you think, non-attack actions are going to be the main defending cards, right? Because, yeah, sometimes they do get overlooked. In fact, you could go a step further and you could use the wrong dagger for the wrong matchup, just to, again, try to catch them up, make them slip up, and then, well, rage bait them, yeah? So, altogether, the main function from that and the deck and its design is you stick a blue into your dagger, and you float that one. That one can then either go rage baiters on the dagger, or rage baiters onto something else, right? The majority of the deck itself is 0 cost, just dump your hand, easy to run, right? I think the only costly card, technically, is Spike with Bloodrot. All the attacks are 0 cost, and then this is a 1-cost attack reaction. So again, blue into a dagger, you float the one, you're golden. But I am actually cutting it. So, yeah, the maybes are the cards that would start in the deck that I've taken out. The inventory is the cards that, I'm thinking of putting in, right? And then, of course, these are the rest of the cards that start in the deck. So, yeah, altogether, it is a really functional deck out of the box. Nice and easy. Stealth card, 0 cost. We'll have go again thanks to Slippy's ability. Then followed up with another one. Stick a dagger before or in between the two. And, again, you're golden. That's your turn structure in a nutshell. Leaves you with some cards to block with. Happy days, right? So, again, super easy, super functional out of the box, and that is a pleasant sight to see after, dabbling with the Reinhardt Armory deck, right? Now, in terms of equipment, right? Stalker Steps is kind of the only thing that you have to think about. So it's definitely really, really nice. It's comparable to, I guess, Snapdragon Scalers. Snapdragon Scalers is a little bit more open-ended. So the best thing to just slot into your deck is Black Tech Whisperers, right? So Black Tech Whisperers is basically the same thing, but it has Battle Wand. So you have your AB through the new Stalker Steps, and then Black Tech Whisperers doing a functionally same thing where it's target assassin attack. When this hits, it gains go again, but has Battle Worn. So, the fact that this plays around blocks to just give it go again is kind of nice in itself. But again, if you don't need the AB, Snapdragon Scalers just opens up a little bit more freedom in some other card selection if that's what you kind of want to rope into your deck. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with just sticking with Stalker Steps. But, again, Black Tech Whisperers if you need a little bit more block, and then Snapdragon Scalers if you're thinking of, something like Inline Strike, I guess Snatches even, but, you might as well take Inline Strike at that point. Cycle a card, doesn't eat into Slippy's initial go again because it doesn't have stealth. Happy days, right? But in terms of the rest of the deck, I think the prime card to hunt down first and foremost is most likely going to be Persuasive Prognosis, because this is one of your big, strong, disruptive elements. It's a blue, you can cycle it around, and you can have it line up with your nice, juicy Horrors of the Past. So again, double dip on the effect, and just have a good old time with it, right? Because, yeah, just yoinking cards out of your hand is going to be a strong objective of the deck. You can present a reasonable amount of damage and a little bit of disruption. In terms of other cards sticking, play on the backside, just a nice value attack to go in there. It doesn't destroy your daggers, so you can get some of those effects across, be it the mark, so that you can lead into something that, again, works with the mark, like Mark of the Black Widow, or, again, the defense reduction, because it can come in handy depending on the matchup you're in. Now, I definitely like sticking the yellow Mark of the Black Widows in the deck because you have, again, a lot of attack reactions, right? You have Shreds, you have the Stains of the Red back, Take Up the Mantle, just makes another card in the graveyard to hit. Altogether, it works functionally well. It's not like Mario where the +1 doesn't really do anything because it just brings it to a 3, right? So, yeah, I think just taking the full rainbow of Mark of the Black Widow does seem nice and functional. At the very least, right, you're most likely getting a card one way or the other out of your opponent's hand, and that's sort of what's going to keep up your momentum when it comes to the deck. Other than that, Stains instead of our Spike the Bloodrot, just because it's going to be free some of the times, and definitely seems like you want to be able to utilize Rage Baiters, right? There's not too much Mark synergy outside of, again, the Mark of the Black Widow or Stains itself and Take Up the Mantle, so it's not too necessary, but it is still something that your opponent has to consider and worry about, right? Because that next disruptive card could be right around the corner, right? Then a third copy of Take Up the Mantle. Again, you got prime targets to hit with it through Persuasive Prognosis if you go get 3 copies. So then lastly, I think the only thing left to really discuss is Inverter's Nightgown, right? So its place in the deck as it currently stands is not as powerful as it could be, right? So Inverter's Nightgown, destroy this, gain a resource for every attack action card with stealth you play. As Slippy, an easy turn is easy, 1 resource, right? A good turn through Stalker Steps or, for instance, Creep would be 2 resources and still an action point to do something. But you don't really have a significant payoff for it, right? You don't have Command and Conquer. You don't have some of those, 2-cost, nice chain finishes that you kind of want to run for a nice, strong inverted Nightgown turn, because easy enough, you'll find your stealth cards to play. Again, you'll get a resource. Maybe that resource feeds into Rage Beta or an attack reaction, right? That's probably the purpose of Spike with Bloodrot. Overall, my rationale for taking it out, so I just wanted to make the deck a little bit more of a nice, easy hand dump, where it is just dump your hand. If you have, again, Mark, Stains are free, right? And you should be able to get that Mark easy enough. Your resources go into your Dagger Swing, and again, Rage Baiters itself, rather than having to, have the resource for Spike with Bloodrot. But Spike is definitely a solid card by itself. So I think in that sense, you could probably, do with something else. Again, Battle Worn plus 1 resource is, solid enough. 2 resources every now and then, easy enough to use it with Stalker Steps. Definitely solid as well. That's your Dagger Swing paid for. But yeah, you could probably look to slot in, a copy of Command and Conquer if you wanted, if you didn't want to splurge too much. And that's just, you find Command and Conquer, that's your powerhouse turn, where you use Inverter's Nightgown, use Stalker Steps, and you go stealth, Command and Conquer. Right? That seems super easy, super doable. Maybe you luck out, maybe you creep, and you go 3 stealth cards wide, and then Command and Conquer, right? And that's crazy enough in itself, because then you could probably Rage Bait one of those cards, get the mark, and trigger one of the stealth cards in the in-between, and that could be a really, really strong turn. But yeah, it's a solid card as it is, it just has a lot more potential to it. But we'll leave there, right? So I'll stick this in the description. Hope you enjoyed, let me know what you think. Prey Spotters, definitely a standout card for me, right? This for just Assassin General and Sage is going to be pretty scary. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.